Okay, we're live. We'll let the stream breathe just for a couple of seconds. Make sure we're nice and stable across all 5 streaming platforms. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up podcast, presented as always by Mile High Huddle, powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me, as always, my partner in crime and fellow football priest. You know him, you love him. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, we were hoping when we signed off last night that we'd have perhaps some movement on the Justin Simmons front on Monday with the deadline bearing down on us now. You know, it's a little more than 24 hours away. Well, yeah, a little more, 36, something like that. But no real substantive news on the Simmons front.
I did see that NFL Network's James Palmer reported, or I guess reported lightly, that they're still negotiating and they still want to get something done. But we've known that already, Chad. That's common sense. They're going to negotiate up until the 4 p.m. Eastern time window on Wednesday afternoon. And I think no news is bad news, though, for Justin Simmons. I think if we would have seen more rumors come out of if a local reporter like Cliff would have tweeted that there's activity going on, it would lead me to believe that a deal could be closer to happening. But now that we're less than 2 days away, I just don't see it. I think in this stage, in this day and age, with everything going on, they're content with paying him $11.4 million, and we'll see you next offseason.
By the way, if I seem just a little bit sweaty tonight, there is a reason for that, and it's not because it's particularly hot where I'm at, although it is. It's because I spent a little time out in my yard pulling some weeds right before we were about ready to go live. Lost track of time because I'm a true professional. But I showed up. I'm here. I'm a little bit sweaty, but I've been looking forward to talking Broncos and talking football all day long. So, Zack, we'll talk a little bit more about it. We'll see what's on the minds of Broncos country and the MHH community here tonight. And I want to get your take on ESPN's Bill Barnwell, how he ranked the Broncos' offensive weaponry heading into 2020 and kind of juxtaposing that with where he ranked them last year and what we can take away from that. But first, you guys, and by the way, tonight is episode 501. We crossed the 500 episode mark last night, and you guys made it a phenomenal experience and a great conversation, and you guys blew us away with just how outgoing and passionate you were. But we still have some schwag that we want to give away. We feel like there were a few regulars who maybe can't make it on Sundays or have family things going on Sundays that we wanted to reserve some of our giveaways for tonight. So we're going to do that here. If you're in the stream, you are entered into the drawing, unless, of course, you were one of the winners from yesterday. So we're going to get to that here in just a second. And John, if it's possible for you to pull that first name, have it ready. We'll get to that on the other side of this quick matter of business. Gang, make sure as MHH continues to grow that you are following the podcast on Twitter. Extremely important so that you can stay plugged in and in tune, have your finger on the pulse of everything that's happening with the show in real time. And while you're at it, you want to make sure you also follow the mother account at Mile High Huddle on Twitter to make sure you don't miss any breaking Broncos news and analysis. We're publishing anywhere from 4 to 10 stories on your Denver Broncos each and every day. Some of it's news, some of it is deep dive analysis, some of it is film, some of it is scouting. It's a little bit of everything, including videos, as you know. So make sure you're following at Mile High Huddle. And then, gang, just to direct your attention gently to huddleuppod.com, you want to get yourself one of these Football Priest hat, one of these T-shirts we're going to be giving away tonight, a mug, a face mask, you name it. Head on over to huddleuppod.com. Get your schwag on. It's another way that you can support what we're doing here at MHH. And if you're not in a position, it's all good. These 3 simple things, whether you're with us live tonight or if you're listening to this after the fact as a podcast on demand, subscribe, especially if you're on YouTube, like this video, like this podcast. And if you really love what Zack and I are doing, you saw one of the testimonials from last night's podcast, share it out there. Word of mouth and reaching other friends and family. It's the best way, probably the most organic, real way to help us grow this podcast. All right, Zack, let's really quick. I want to get your take on Barnwell. But first, let me see what this is a good one. Awesome. Here's the new, or the first winner tonight. I'm going to put it on screen. Bear with me 1 second here.
This is an OG right here, Chad. I just saw it in the little private chat we have. Our winner is an OG.
Jeez, my freaking glasses are fogging up on me because I'm so sweaty. All right, here you go. Long-time listeners, Albert and Michelle, congratulations. For what it's worth, gang, we only have XLs left on the shirts, the physical shirts we have in our possession. So if you can't make that work, if it doesn't fit you, reach out when you let us know. Of course, you need to reach out to give us your physical address so we can get this stuff to you. And in so doing, if XL is too small or too big for your body size, let us know and we'll see if we can find a workaround and maybe send you something else. But Albert and Michelle, you're gonna have to figure out how to split this plum. But thank you so much for your support and congrats on the win.
Yeah, hopefully maybe we can cut it in half or something and each have a half of the shirt to wear. But Chad, more so than that, do you see some of the comments we're getting? I wanted to point this out about us being on the opposite sides of the screen. It seems like our viewers, it just makes them crazy when I'm on the left and you're on the right. It just worked out that way tonight, but people are losing their minds over this. I can't get over that.
Should we fix it? Look how easy it is to fix. Watch.
I kind of like it. I'm kind of comfortable.
You like it? You want to be lefty?
Bizarro world for one night, Chad. This is a weird off season. It's a weird year. Let's just get weird.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Real quick before we get much deeper into tonight's podcast, I want to welcome in everybody who's been hanging out in the room. You know who you are. We appreciate you. We got to give a shout out to Mark, who, as usual, as is his wont to do, gets in a very generous super chat ahead of time. He's going to be on the show on Wednesday night, gang, for the fourth installment of our Superstar series. So you're not going to want to miss that segment. Mark Langley jumping in. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, Mark.
He says, Garrett. Hold on, I got to read this one ahead of time. Make sure he doesn't ensnare me. Garrett broke his toilet bowl seat, and it cost him just $5, just like this donation, going to a couple of good guys and what they do for us. Hashtag Garrett, generic waste, hashtag football priest, hashtag huddle up. Zach, Mark Langley does not, in case you guys missed it, here's your news flash. Mark Langley, not a fan of Garrett Bowles, Zach.
I didn't know that, Chad. That's breaking news to me. But Mark, we always appreciate you. You always bring the levity, the humor. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. You're the resident jester of this podcast. You always bring the laughs. You're always good for the entertainment. And also, you're a very valued member of our community. Thank you so much for your continued support each and every podcast.
But I want to test your comedic wherewithal, Mark. And I want you to start, not to say that, continue to make fun at Garrett Bowles. It's all good. We laugh along with you. It's all good. But maybe find something else, too, that's funny. I'd like to see if you could maybe make something humorous out of Philip Lindsay, out of Courtland Sutton. Melvin Gordon. There you go. But, yeah, thank you so much, my friend. We appreciate you. All right. So, Zach, before we get into – I know some other questions and supers are stacking up. We'll get to them here in just a second. But before we dive into that, I would like to get your take. Yes, Steven, less than a week till the rookies report. It's going to be a gas. We're looking forward to that. I want to get your take. Let me pull up this article real quick from Bill Barnwell. Here it is. And I'm going to quote him here. In fact, I'll do a quick share screen so everyone can kind of have the visual and follow along with us here. But I think this is a topic we can sink our teeth into a little bit. And, of course, get the take of the community as well. But he did Barnwell, his rankings for offensive weapons. All right. Last year, the Denver Broncos ranked in 2019 with Joe Flacco as the quarterback, Emmanuel Sanders, Courtland Sutton, a rookie, Noah Fant, Philip Lindsay, Royce Freeman. They ranked 31st. All right. Only one team was ranked lower than the Broncos last year by Bill Barnwell. This year, Zach, they have leapfrogged half the league, and he's got them ranked at 14. Now, let me just read this quote really quick. He says, after using the past drafts to rebuild their weaponry, the Broncos have one of the more exciting young cores in the league. Wide receiver Courtland Sutton, a second-round pick in 2018, broke out with an 1,100-yard campaign last season, which is particularly impressive when you consider that his quarterbacks were Joe Flacco, Brandon Allen, and rookie Drew Lock. First-round pick Noah Fant wasn't consistent as a rookie, but he ranked 9th in receiving yards and 4th in yards per route among tight ends over the second half of the season. GM John Elway then supplemented this group by using his top 2 draft picks on wideouts Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. This is an exciting group of receivers, although more for the long term than in 2020, given their relative inexperience. I'm less than enthused about the Broncos moving Phillip Lindsay out of the starting lineup for free agent signing Melvin Gordon, who wasn't effective for the Chargers last season after returning from his holdout and saw the fumble woes from his rookie year reappear. Gordon was still 15th in success rate and is a plus receiver, so he should comfortably be an upgrade on Royce Freeman's half of the Denver running back rotation, close quote. So, Zach, first off, do you think that's a fair ranking, a fair estimation of where this kind of supporting cast stands for Drew Lock and company? And what does it mean?
I think it's very encouraging, and I think it's very fair. Even taking my Broncos hat off, Chad, Bill Barnwell has always been a straight down the middle kind of guy. There's no bias. There's no agenda. He doesn't say anything or do anything for clicks or anything like that or for ratings. He just sees what he sees on tape and he puts it into words. And I think that's a fair ranking. And if you scroll down, the Broncos are ahead of a big amount of other heavy hitting teams. The Ravens, I think the Packers, they are really in a good position because when you look at the talent, you can see Phillip Lindsay, and he's one of the few people in the national media who recognizes Lindsay's talent for what it is. It's not just me banging the table, wanting Lindsay to get more carries and kind of hating on the Melvin Gordon edition. He's one of them as well. Then you add on Courtland Sutton, who's a all-pro caliber receiver. Then you have Noah Fant in his second year. Then you have all the other weapons, and you tie it all together with a quarterback like Drew Lock, who Barnwell is high on. And yeah, 14th overall ranking. They were 10th in Bleacher Report. They had the 10th best supporting cast. They're getting a lot of national praise, and it's not top 5, top 3. That would be a little too optimistic for me. But 14th, 10th, that's right up there. That's right in the wheelhouse where they should be. And if they have a top 14 offense and a top 5 or top 10 defense, that is a playoff team. So again, it doesn't mean much. It's off-season fluff right now. It's July 13th. Nothing's going on. But if they translate what's being said about them to the field, if they have a top 14 offense, this will be a double-digit win Broncos team.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at a couple of the teams that the Broncos edged out at 14, right behind them were the Seahawks at 15, who ranked 29th last year for what it's worth. So similarly to the Broncos, they took quite a leap forward by virtue of this last year and what they did in the draft and free agency. He's got the Chargers only 2 slots behind the Broncos at 16. And just looking at 17, he's got the Vikings, which, you know, they lost Stephon Diggs, but they added Justin Jefferson. So, you know, that's still a pretty stacked unit there. So, and the San Francisco 49ers at 18. And then, as you said, you look at who the Broncos are behind. You got Pittsburgh right in front of them here for Barnwell, the Falcons, the Rams, the Eagles. So the powerhouse offensive teams in the NFL, it really is encouraging, I think, and very emblematic of just how much John Elway has sold out, in the best sense of that phrase, to upgrade the offense. We've seen him at different points in his front office career kind of pivot and really go all in on not just building a good roster, but going all in terms of one side of the ball, whether it was building the most prolific offense in the history of the NFL in 2013, within 2 years, kind of pivoting from that, building a all-time caliber defense that wins the Super Bowl, and then kind of going through wandering the quarterback desert. It's hard to know where exactly to stack your chips if you're a GM when you don't have that most necessary roster piece in a true bona fide franchise quarterback. If you're going to err, Zach, in that situation, I guess you're probably going to err on the side of defense, and that's mostly what Elway did up until 2019. The pendulum swung. You really saw, I mean, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Dalton Risner, the first 3 picks, offensive players. 2020, I mean, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, the third round pick. The first one was Ojemudia. Then you got Lloyd Cushenberry. So 3 of the first 4 picks this year, key offensive players who are going to play a big role in this team moving forward. So it's all absolutely encouraging as it relates to the ticker here, which way it's pointing for the Denver Broncos, which I maintain, Zach, is upward. I mean, it's no coincidence that really measured, good analytical national voices like Barnwell are picking up what John Elway's putting down here.
But what's so impressive is they built this potential powerhouse offense all through the draft. They found their franchise quarterback in the second round. Courtland Sutton was a second-round pick. Phillip Lindsay was undrafted. KJ Hamler was a second-round pick. Jerry Jeudy was 15 overall, and that was a steal for his value. He's compiled this entire offense, especially center Cushenberry, left guard Reisner. He added a little piece, Garrett Bowles, a left tackle. Yeah, he signed Glasgow. Yeah, he signed Juwan James. Yeah, he signed Melvin Gordon. But he built the house up. The foundation of the house, proverbially, is being built through the draft. Not through free agency. It wasn't 2014 again. Yeah, they won a title because of it, but that doesn't happen too often in this day and age. John Elway's biggest switch is not spending ludicrous money. It's building through the draft. And that's why since 2018, the Broncos have become incrementally better, and it's going to all pay off, and they're going to cash out with all their chips on the table in 2020. That's what I love to see, Chad.
As you touched on in your initial analysis here, I mean, if the Broncos really do field a top 14, let's just say a top 15 offense statistically this year, combined with Vic Fangio's defensive acumen and the changes and upgrades I would argue they made at certain points anyway on the defensive side of the ball, this is going to be one of those teams we've been talking about it all offseason, but this is going to be one of those teams that, you know, opponents just don't want to face, especially down the stretch. This is a team that I think you can fairly take out of the dark horse category and put them into more of like, I mean, I don't know so much that they're a sleeper anymore. I mean, I would think the NFL is seeing basically what's coming at them in the 2020 Denver Broncos.
They're going to take a lot of people by surprise. And like who pigeonholed the Tennessee Titans as a team that would get within one game of reaching the Super Bowl? And that wasn't me. It wasn't many people. They got hot at the right time. All the pieces clicked together at the right time. And the Broncos have that ability where it might start out a little slow in the beginning. There might be some hiccups with Locke and the offense and the defense. But come mid-season, when they start hitting their stride, and by December and January, when they really start getting good, they're going to be a team that no one wants to face in Denver or elsewhere, considering what they bring to the table. Coaching, defense, and offense. I'll say it again. Top 14 offense in a worst-case scenario, it's still top half in the league. You pair that with what should be in a worst-case scenario, top 10 defense. Chad, who in the AFC would want to face that? Especially if you have to come to Denver in that altitude. Not many teams.
I agree. Just to round this out, to give everybody perspective, here's the top 10 in Barnwell's rankings, offensive weaponry. The Eagles at 10, followed by the Cardinals at 9. So that's another one of these teams that, you know, if they ended up getting their equation right and that defense can hold up, and Kyler Murray ends up being who they think he is as a former number one pick, Cardinals could be one of those true dark horse teams that kind of come out of nowhere to compete. The Bills at 8, which I think is interesting. The Giants at 7. Wow. I don't know if I could go that far with him on that. But the Saints at 6.
That is surprising, the Giants. Wow.
The Panthers at 5. If this were a Giants podcast, we could read what he had to say.
Teddy Bridgewater, Christian McCaffrey, Curtis Samuel, and DJ Moore. That's a top 5 offense.
I think McCaffrey is obviously what's probably.
And Robbie Anderson? I don't know. I disagree
tipping the scales. Yeah, they did add Robbie Anderson. You're right there. And he does mention it. So a couple of these are a little, you could pick nits on. Tampa Bay at 4.
I could see that.
Dallas at 3. I think that's
super
pretty
fair.
dang close. Cleveland at 2. Still Cleveland getting the hype, man. I don't know.
People love riding that Baker Mayfield train. He has to prove me, he has to prove a lot to me before I hop on that train as well.
And then no surprise, the Chiefs at number 1. So that rounds out the top 10. We want to get your thoughts on it, gang. So let us know what you think. Let's grab a few of the supers that are stacked up. Give away another shirt here. We got Glenn jumping in. Appreciate you, my friend, one of the superstars in our community. He says, what is the most memorable moment for each of you in the first 500? Hashtag state of being in New Hampshire. Hashtag MHH. You know, Zach, I'll go first on this, but I would say one of the most, if he's asking memorable, one of the most memorable is a live stream podcast that you and I did in the media room at the NFL Combine. And what was cool about that is that, we had been working together at that point for just about a year, but we had never met in person, different geographic places in the United States. And so we had just met a couple of days prior to that. And, by that point, we'd already been podcasting together for a year, working together, as I mentioned. So It was fun, though, to finally get a chance to not only meet each other, but kind of let loose and attack the combine and talk to all those great prospects, the 2019 class, which included, of course, Drew Lock and Dalton Reisner and Noah Fant. But that, to me, was probably one of, if not the most memorable moment for the Huddle Up podcast.
Yeah, that was a Facebook Live, I believe, Chad, at the time. We in the back of the media room, in the giant media room in Indianapolis. And also we went back to our room we were staying. We did a podcast, the first time ever, a true podcast, face-to-face. It wasn't remote. It was in person. That was pretty fun. Also, I have to say, Chad, the draft pod we did this year, the round table, we had everyone on for hours and hours and hours at a time. That was phenomenal to have everyone's input and kind of watch the draft in real time, and a lot of fun. I thought it was really cool.
And not only that, but those draft streams, man, they just raked in the viewers. Like, it was insane numbers. Like, right now on YouTube live, I mean, a few thousand people will end up watching this video, a few thousand subscribers after the fact. But live, there's probably across all platforms, a few hundred people watching this live right now. And for middle of the dead period on the NFL calendar, that's actually pretty solid. If you're in triple digits on a live stream, I mean, regardless of what your following is, when there's literally nothing going on, you're doing pretty good. But in those draft streams, Zach, I mean, we were pulling in well over 1,000 live viewers concurrent from different channels. And, you think, well, you see insane numbers sometimes on views on YouTube, and you think, 1,000 live concurrent doesn't seem that impressive to me. But I would defy you, okay, to go and check out any video from, doesn't necessarily have to be a direct competitor of MHH, but I would include them. But anyone in the sports landscape sphere, and watch a live stream they do, you'll never see any of them. Some of them that could have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, you'll never see them come close to having 1,000 concurrent viewers. It just doesn't happen. So that was a watershed moment. And honestly, it really helped, I think, the channel growth, especially on YouTube.
That's what I was going to say. When we were doing the draft pods, we had this, 7 people on at a time and rotating people and having us on for 6 hours, the length of the draft. Who else was doing that? Who else in the Broncos sphere? Who else in the NFL sphere? And who else has the audience to pull that off as well? It's as much a testament to you guys out there as it is to us. I had a load of fun doing it. Chad did as well. We all did. We all talked about it for days afterward. And I'm looking forward to next year's draft, Chad. Yeah. In there or not, on location or not, I love those huge milestone pods we can do for free agency, the draft, the season. It's going to be fun going forward.
Man, what we had planned for the draft this year, if the word that shall go unmentioned doesn't happen and unfold the way it did, that, talk about a watershed moment, that would have been really cool. So we're kicking that can down the road. It's going to happen, even if it's, maybe next off season. We'll figure it out. Maybe it ends up being at a tailgate this year. I don't know if the word that shall go unmentioned is going to allow that to happen, but we still have some big plans to do some live podcasts involving our community, involving the fans, and we'll get to that eventually. Mike Evans, bona fide superstar, consistent as it comes. Love you, bro. Jumping in. He says, appreciate y'all. How would you rank our offensive line in the division? And did we improve? In the division, Zach,
ahead of the Chargers, for sure.
Yeah, better than the Chargers. The Raiders still have a pretty formidable O-line. I think on paper you have to give it to them in terms of proven, production and cohesion as a unit. A lot more so anyway than the current starting 5 in Denver. And honestly, you can't take away from the Kansas City Chiefs O-line that is very much patchwork. I mean, no superstars there, Zach, but they just won a Super Bowl. So I think you could, until proven otherwise by additional empirical data, in other words, performance on the field, I think it fairly you put this unit at number 3 in the AFC West. And did we improve? Absolutely. In terms of the interior, I think Lloyd Cushenberry's upside is significantly higher than what the Broncos lost in Connor McGovern. And look, Graham Glasgow is a clear upgrade over Ron Leary, who was a great leader, but he just, first of all, he had a hard time staying healthy and on the field. And even when he was on the field, Zach, he never lived up to that Dallas Cowboys reputation he brought with him as a prized free agent acquisition in 2017.
The Raiders, they have Rodney Hudson. He's a great center, but he's getting a little older. They have Trent Brown, who got a huge contract. He's a good tackle, but it remains to be seen whether he'll ever, get back to that level he was before joining Oakland. The Chiefs, they have Schwartz, they have Eric Fisher, 2 great tackles. Their guard play is a little suspect. I will say the Broncos, I'll put them in a tie for second with Oakland. I think the Chiefs, they just won a title. They're the reigning champs. You got to give them by default, the honor there. But the Broncos have the potential to not only be the best line in the West if all things go according to plan. If Garrett Bowles is just consistent and good and average and Juwan James stays healthy, this could be not only the best offensive line in the West, but a top 10 O-line in the NFL. And if they have that with their defense and the rest of the offense they have, Chad, it's going to be a very exciting season. That's what I'll say about the O-line. It's a high floor, but a much higher ceiling.
Well said. Well said. And if the tackles play up to their potential, we could be talking about a very, very, very prolific starting 5 here. Yeah. But that's if, you need James on the field first and foremost, and you need Bowles to, first of all, win his competition in camp and then keep his head extricated from his rear end, as he showed he could do down the stretch. Call it the Mike Munchak effect, call it the Drew Lock effect, whatever you want to call it. If he maintains that trajectory and the mindset and more discipline, then sky's the limit for this starting 5. All right, Mr. Boggins jumping in. Appreciate you, my friend, as always. He says, remember when a running back from Colorado beat out Melvin Gordon for the running back 1 spot? Small world. Hashtag history repeats, of course, speaking to the Austin Eckler phenomenon down in L.A., which it is ironic. Eckler, of course, also Colorado kid, like maybe not the Colorado kid like Philip Lindsay, but that's the one thing where, you look around the national perspective, Zach, and when people talk about the Broncos backfield, Lindsay is taking, the back seat in the eyes of these national analysts, and they completely omit and forget that he was eclipsed by an undrafted rookie who is basically almost half his size and really more of a receiver out of the backfield. The Chargers had a chance to show Gordon the love and favor him with the checkbook, with the love, and they didn't. They gave that money, or what money would have gone to him anyway, to Eckler. And I concur with our friend Mr. Boggins here, Zach, that it's probably going to happen again in Denver, because Philip Lindsay, look, dude, he just, as he said in that one video, I think it was a week and a half ago, I don't care who they bring in. I don't care what they got to get through me. And that is very hard to do.
It's going to happen again. I'm going to take away the probably from that, or the maybe, could be. They're going to, not to be their RB1, because the Broncos, based on what they're paying Melvin Gordon, they're going to feed him carries to justify that RB1 status, to justify that contract. But do not be surprised at all if on a snap-by-snap basis, Philip Lindsay outperforms and outworks Melvin Gordon. He can run inside, he can run outside, he can run goal line, he can catch, he can pass block. Might not be the best, but he can do it, and he's super motivated. He didn't have the chip on his shoulder last year, Chad, and he was still a 1,000-yard running back. This year, he is super pissed off, super motivated, and he wants not only the Broncos to see they made a mistake, but the entire NFL that he is a true 3-down back, and he's going to make everyone see this season. Philip, let them hate.
Let them hate. Hashtag that, baby. We got one of our longtime listeners, and he might not always be in the stream as often as we'd love him to be in the stream, because, he's got things cooking. He's got a life. He's got things going on. But he's another one of our longtime listeners and bona fide Super Chat superstars that deserves credit as well for this podcast modest success and getting to 500 episodes. Discount Audio and Wills, DA Dub, jumping in with a very generous super. We appreciate you, my friend. He says, "What's up? We have Simmons under control for this season, and we can tag him again next season too. Plus, Vic's system allows safeties to thrive. I want Simmons back, but for 17, 18, 19 million, we can always draft the next guy up." Zach, your thoughts?
He's not going to get 19 mil. It's just, he can top Eddie Jackson. He could be a $15 million player, 15.5, maybe 16. They will not go up to 19. They probably won't go up to 18. It just comes down to a matter of opinion. If you think Justin Simmons, if you think a safety is worth investing in, then he deserves a contract. I happen to think he brings more to the table than just being a safety. He can play nickel corner. He can play all over the defensive backfield. He's a great leader, great for the locker room. He loves being a Bronco. He's a homegrown guy. I'm willing to bet he would take a little more, Chad, or a little less, to stay in Denver. He's not a guy that's going to milk the Broncos dry for every penny. Just a great all-around guy who I think is deserving of a multi-year investment. Would I go to 17? No. Would I go to 16? No. But $15 million, if this was a normal offseason for a 4 or 5 year contract, why not? He's still not even in his prime yet. He's still ascending. He's a true playmaker back there, and you could always draft Kareem Jackson's replacement. He's getting up there in age, but I would keep around one of the young, homegrown studs that you've developed. And not only, he wasn't a first-round pick. He wasn't a second-round pick. He was a mid-round pick who became a really top 3 safety in the NFL. You keep those guys around. You don't get rid of them.
I think what DA-Dub might be implying there with the figures he used is if he were to get franchise tagged again next year, you mentioned it on last night's pod, Zach, that it inflates if you franchise tag him the second time, what was it, by 20% over the year prior? I can't remember. But if that's the case, I mean, it could be approaching those type of figures perhaps in 2021. But who knows? Hopefully it doesn't come to that, Zach.
I don't see the tag again. Either they're going to probably, if he has a good season on the tag, they're going to re-sign him to a new contract. And if he doesn't have a good season, they'll probably let him walk. I can't see a scenario where Simmons is tagged 2 off seasons in a row. He's not a quarterback. He's not a pass rusher. He's not even a shutdown corner. He's a safety in the NFL. So you tag him once. If he has a good year again, if he repeats 2019, pay him. If he doesn't, if he takes a step back, he gets injured, then you can maybe let him walk. I don't see the tag again for 2 seasons in a row.
David Bingaman jumping in fact, one of last night's winners, and was good to hear from you, David, who reached out on email to confirm that he knows he was a winner, and I already had his personal deets, but that's a reminder, if you are announced as a winner, whether you were, I think everyone last night has reached out, so we should be good there. But tonight, if you are one of the winners of our schwag giveaway, make sure you either reach out with an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, or if we are connected on social media, and if we're not, why aren't we connected with you on social media? Reach out to either myself or Zach Price.
Did it freeze?
Okay, I don't know what happened there. We had a good string of luck going for like the last week or so, and then it just reared its ugly head. So let me start over. David says, if Jake Butt balls out in training camp and beats Nick Vannett, what do you do? And this was a topic I broached in the article last week, grading the Broncos tight end position. And the truth is about Vannett is, you know, he signed a 2-year, $5.7 million contract in March. He got $2.5 million guaranteed, which isn't nothing, but if he were to really fall on his face or vastly underdeliver in training camp and a couple of other tight ends, including Jake Butt, outplay him, it's not so prohibitive as to completely rule out the possibility of releasing him. But it would take, Zach, a Herculean type of leap forward by Jake Butt to ice out Vannett. Now, what I would see is probably being more likely, even if it's less, still unlikely, is him kind of marginalizing Alberto to the practice squad. But if that were in threat, I would see the Broncos probably just being more inclined to carry 4 tight ends this year instead of 3. And if you look back at the history of Pat Shurmur when it comes to 53-man rosters, the last 2 years when he was the head coach of the New York Giants, in 2018, his first year, they carried 3 tight ends to open the season, Zach, and then 4 this past year. I might have gotten those reversed. Either way, 3 one year, 4 the other year. So it remains to be seen exactly how that roster math shakes out, but I'm not ruling out completely that Butt's going to come in and ball out. The Broncos are keeping themselves open to the possibility. They've been patient, long-suffering, but it would be a major upset for him to do that because, let's face it, how many major knee surgeries now, or knee injuries? 3, I think, in his football career, 2 of which, since he's been on the Broncos, in the Broncos family.
The thing is, but even if he catches a lot of passes, even if he does perform well and he does ball out, they didn't sign Vannett to be a pass catcher. They signed him to be a blocker. He's like a 6 offensive lineman. That's his quote-unquote specialty. Jake Butt's specialty is not blocking. He's more of a pass catcher. They have a lot of pass catchers on the roster. So all things being equal, they didn't shell out $5 million for another pass-catching tight end. They have plenty of those. They wanted a blocker. It would take just A phenomenal effort by Jake Butt to show that he's a blocker and a pass catcher, and just Van Ness to fall on his face, which I don't see happening. And even if Jake Butt does ball out, it would probably push a Fumagalli or a Beck or a Ford off the roster before it pushes Nick Van Ness off the roster. The money they gave him, it's not a lot on the surface, Chad, but it was significant money. They signed him during a period where they strategized who they want to add to the roster. They like his blocking chops. Butt doesn't offer that. So I can't see a scenario where that unfolds.
Kathleen wants to know who the first three opponents are. Tennessee, week 1. I'm trying to remember week 2, and then week 3 is the Tampa Bay Bucks. Let me make sure I can't. Who is week 2? Bear with me 1 second.
Steelers, right?
That's right. It is the Steelers. Yep, on September 20th. So those are the first 3 opponents, Kathleen, and I'm glad to have you with us here. All right, let me jump down here and grab this name. Oh, we have a new winner for the next shirt that we're sending out, and it's very deserving. We have already mentioned him tonight. And this is a guy that's been with us, I would say, Zach, at least for the last 9 months. I don't know if he's been listening longer, but as an active participant in the community and a bona fide superstar, about that long. And he's also a guy who contributed to the Huddle Up podcast by way of content in terms of he sent us an intro that we use from time to time for the podcast. You know him as Mr. Boggins himself is one of the winners tonight for a hashtag Football Priest t-shirt. And again, it's the Football Priest on the front, Huddle Up podcast logo on the back. So Mr. Boggins, we are connected on social media. So either reach out there or send an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, with your personal details so that we can get that out to you. Appreciate you, my friend, and congrats.
Yeah, I hope you like the shirt, and we appreciate your little intro clip that we've used. It's really cool that you reached out and sent us that. So we love your support. We appreciate your service to the podcast.
The Queen dives in with a generous super chat. You know, you don't have to do that, Christy. We appreciate you so much. She says, if we get a no crowd season, so no fans, you guys should do live game day watch party pods. We have had it requested to do live streams while the game's going on. Look, I wish in a perfect world we could do, we could actually have the game in one of the windows and we're sitting here talking to you guys while the game's happening. We're all seeing it on screen, but we learned the hard way. I mean, we knew this, but we learned the hard way when we streamed the first night of the draft that copyright, especially on certain platforms, first of all, it wouldn't be eligible for monetization, and there's a lot of obstacles to overcome. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but we don't want to jeopardize the channels, so we can't show them live. But that doesn't mean, Zach, as Christy's requesting here, that we can't all have the game on and we're all watching it and we're discussing it live. I just don't know how compelling that would be because neither one of us, Zach, are play-by-play guys, right? We're not going to sit here and narrate the game. So, there's going to be a little bit of dead time, and we could try it. We could give it a whirl in one of the preseason games if there's enough of a grassroots outcry for us to try this and see how it works.
Yeah, if we have preseason too, we can have a test pilot. I have no problem with that, but also from a content standpoint, if a big play happens, we got to hop off and take care of that. It would just be some logistical issues to work through, but in terms of fun, in terms of interaction, if we can mimic the draft, what we did with that, Chad, to some extent, I'm all for it. I'm down to try it.
All right. We'll put a pin in that, Christy, and keep it under consideration, and we will holler back. Look, we're not that far out. I mean, if the NFL gets its way in terms of the players agree to keep 2 preseason games at least this year, we're basically a month out from that happening. And training camp now is only 2 weeks away. And as Steven mentioned earlier in the show, as we showed you there, the rookies report in a week. I mean, we're button up right against it. It is go time here very, very soon. So the preseason will be here before we know it. We got Zach's web design, longtime listener, bona fide superstar jumping in. Appreciate you, Zach. And Zach's going to come on the show in August sometime. We're gonna set it up for August, probably the back end of August, because we've got, I think, the first 2 Wednesdays of the month of August already booked for our superstar segments. But we're going to get Zach on the show, and it's going to be a gas. We can't wait to talk with him and introduce you guys to him in the flesh. But he says, would it be possible if we could be contenders for Kansas City in 3 or 4 years if we keep building like the last 3 years? Hashtag Chiefs need stopped. Hashtag 6-year drought. So I think, God bless you, Zach. I think you're being a little pessimistic in terms of, I think the Broncos can compete with the Chiefs now. In terms of contending for the AFC West, it sounds counterintuitive. But, Zach, you can actually lose head-to-head against the Kansas City Chiefs both games this year and still win the AFC West. If they have a less than stellar season, still maybe win double digits, still maybe get to 9-10 wins if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Broncos get to 11 wins, 2 of their losses, 5 losses being against it can happen. This is a team that has that kind of momentum. Now, am I predicting them to unseat the Chiefs as AFC champs this year? No, but I have predicted already. It was a way too early prediction, and I'm going to redo the prediction after we see this team in some form, whether it's just training camp or preseason. We will do another bold prediction, like a more definitive prediction on the doorstep of the regular season. But I predicted, Zach, 11 wins for this team and a 9-7 floor. Now, I could end up looking like, the inverse version of Nick Wright and a complete jackass if I'm wrong on that. But I don't think I will be, Zach.
The Broncos in 2017 were 3 years away. Now they're right in the mix of it. And if they can almost and should have beaten the Chiefs in 2018 with Case Keenum, they can do it now with Drew Lock and the talent they have on offense. I'm not going to say, like Chad kind of alluded to, they're going to win the West, they're going to win the Super Bowl, they're going to be the next Kansas City Chiefs, because no one is right now. They have Patrick Mahomes, and if you have Patrick Mahomes, you are at the top. But the Broncos are right there. They have better defense, better defensive coaching. They have a quarterback who's exciting, can make plays. The talent on offense is almost comparable. They can be up there as well. It could be 2 double-digit win teams from the AFC West, the Chiefs and the Broncos. And those games they play, I predicted a split. So did Chad this year. They lose one game, win one game. I think they're going to win in Arrowhead. And that could start to set off the motion for the next couple years of the Broncos kind of slowly overtaking the Kansas City, slowly establishing themselves back on that mountaintop in the AFC West. It's going to start in 2020, but not 3 to 4 years. The latest by 2021, they're going to be right in the thick of things. Have a little more optimism when it comes to the Broncos.
We got Discount DA-Dub jumping back in. Appreciate you, my friend.
You.
He says, congrats on 500 yesterday and counting. MHH. Thank you so much, man. It means everything. And each one of you listening to this, and especially the superstars that have contributed the way you have over these, last 9 months when we started doing live streaming and whatnot, you all have a big role to play and credit to take in for what MHH has become. And, what's exciting about this whole thing, Zach, is we're just getting started. We're just getting started in terms of the podcast programming and what we can do video wise. I mean, Mile High Huddle does, about anywhere between 500 if it's the regular season, or off season is where this variant comes in. But there's about 500,000 unique Broncos fans who visit milehighhuddle.com on a monthly basis. When it's the season, it's about double that. And so if we can funnel some of those eyeballs that are at milehighhuddle.com, reading the content, watching the videos there, Zach, over to our YouTube channel and to the podcast RSS feeds where they can, see what we've got cooking here. I mean, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit for MHH. And really, you guys have helped us to scratch the surface and to see what is possible with MHH. So appreciate you, DA-Dub.
Yeah, it's everything was true what Chad said, and that's why we've been doing the 7K show and the 500 show. It's a give back, and it's a celebration to you guys. It's a testament to you guys. We wouldn't be here without you. The support, Chad and I, and Buana, Chad and I, collectively, individually, have always talked about it. We have been floored. We have been stunned this entire offseason with nothing going on and people's personal lives being impacted and financial, economic, and yet day in and day out, night in and night out, you guys have been here for the ride, interacting, engaging, supporting. We can't tell you how much that means to us. And that's why we try to give back as much as possible. And 500 down, 500 to go, 7K, and then the next is 14K, and the next 21K after that. We're not stopping. We're only getting started.
That's right. Gilster37 jumping in. Good to see you again on Super Chat. Appreciate you, my friend. Is it too late for ZZ Top to be the halftime at the Super Bowl? Dog, I'm wondering if there's like a joke in that.
I'm going to say no, just to answer the question.
Know. I don't know, to be honest with you, my friend. But thank you for your support. What's that? Oh, I'm trying to think of a ZZ Top song. Oh man, the 80s guys are going to be after me. I can't think of one. Well, I can think of one, but it's maybe not appropriate for a live podcast. But Jaden Torres jumping in. Appreciate you and seeing you again on Super that. Very cool, Jaden. Thank you. What's up, guys? Today I was getting groceries, and there I thought to myself, could Garrett Bowles be back in his groceries next year?
Mark Langley has a burner, and Jaden Torres.
Yeah, you and Mark. But honestly, Bowles will have, if he flames out in Denver, even if he doesn't flame out, crash and burn style, but if he has kind of a fair to middling contract year, and the Broncos choose not to bring him back, and he moves into free agency, someone will bring him in. He'll play in the NFL another 2-3 years if things don't go well for him this year. Someone's going to, invariably, Zach, when it comes to first round picks that don't quite live up to expectations in their original NFL homes, there's always that GM or front office that thinks that had a high evaluation on them when they were drafted and thinks our system is the difference. Our system could fix him. Our system could be why this guy could actually succeed, and then they'll take a chance. After that, if it doesn't work out, like you saw with Trent Richardson, for example, former running back from Alabama that flamed out, Cleveland flamed out. After Indy, he landed in Oakland for a minute there, if I'm not mistaken, but it just didn't really pan out for him. So we'll see. Maybe that's what awaits Garrett Bowles in his not too distant future, Zach. We'll see.
That's a great point, and it's the same reason why Paxton Lynch got a shot with the Seahawks, got a shot with the Steelers recently. If you're a high-round pick, if you have talent, physical talent, on-paper talent, there's always going to be a GM that thinks they can unlock it. There's always going to be a GM that thinks they can salvage it. So if Garrett Bowles flames out in Denver, he will get a second contract. It might not be a lucrative one. It might be on a prove-it contract, incentive-laden contract, but he will be in the NFL, I believe, barring a career-ending injury in 2021. In Denver, I don't know, but they tend to have a long shelf life. And you talk about bagging groceries, it works out for the best. And look at Kurt Warner. He was literally a bag boy who went on to win a Super Bowl. So it could be worse.
Made it to the Hall of Fame, and they're making a movie about him, I read. His life story is getting turned into a movie. I don't know. I don't have any other details on that front for you, but Kurt Warner is a very unique NFL story.
15 years from now, the Garrett Bowles movie coming to a theater near you. That's what Mark's going to be all over that one.
Give us the title of that Garrett Bowles movie in the stream. What will it be called?
The Hold.
Duke Boynton jumping in, showing some love. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you.
He says, one of our superstars, my first ever tweet, this is true, he just barely started his Twitter account, was sharing your 500th pod, LOL. I'm dumb when it comes to Twitter, but I'm proud of you two. Keep up the great work. That's awesome, dude. Duke's a good example, and it's right next to each other. Duke started his Twitter in order to engage with MHH. Kathy Lund, one of our dedicated listeners as well, started her Twitter to account for MHH. John, Buona Beast himself, the same. So if you are not on Twitter right now, gang, I don't blame you. It's kind of especially with regard to politics, it's basically a sewer in terms of discourse. Everyone's talking at each other. Nobody's listening. But when it comes to sports, following news, sports conversation, it's a great medium and a great way to stay in touch with your favorite reporters and podcasters and teams and players. And so I would suggest doing so, especially if you're one of our Super Chat superstars. Get on Twitter so that we can tag you and shout you out after each and every podcast. Here is one of the winners from one of tonight's giveaways. Albert and Michelle jumping in, showing love on Super Chat in a symbolic way. $5.01 Super Chat, and they said a penny for each pod. Keep it up, guys. Hold on, I'm gonna do it.
That's all you.
He's from the Netherlands. Geweldig Gewoon Dutch for awesome as always. Or maybe not the Netherlands. Maybe is Dutch the Netherlands? Now I sound ignorant. Dutch. Anyway, Albert, Michelle, much love to you. Appreciate you so much. And I know you're from across the pond originally, living in the U.S. of A. Speaking of a fan that is not in the continental United States, but in North America, exemplifying the hashtag state of being. We got Terry Randall, bona fide superstar, also $5.01 super symbolic. Appreciate you, Terry. And we're looking forward to having you on the show here in just a few weeks' time. It's going to be great. He says, keep hashtag football priest, hashtag state of being, keep the chat rocking Broncos country, and drop a like. Good looking out, Terry. Appreciate that reminder. If you haven't liked the video, especially on YouTube and Facebook, gang, make sure you like this thing. Every interaction like that helps us in the algorithm to grow and reach additional people in terms of impressions out there. So, all right, let me see here. We've given away 2. John, pull another one. We're going to give away another, basically dealer or winner's choice. You pick something from the merch store. We're going to give it to you. We did it on last night's show. I think it was Christian who won that particular giveaway, but we're going to do it. So the name we're about to announce, you go on to huddleuppod.com to the merch store, pick out what you want. Maybe it's a hoodie, maybe it's a face mask, a hat, maybe it's the mug, maybe it's the tank top. It is summer after all. You tell us what you want. Email us, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and with your physical address, and we will have that shipped to you at your request. All right. Yeah. John, either one's fine. Either one's fine. Bear with us 1 second. And while John is pulling that, let's grab this super from Terry, just because number 7 is very important to Terry. He's going to be the 7th superstar segment. So appreciate that, my friend. Appreciate that
Terry.
more than you know. Here's Christy. Chad was drinking Red Bull under the desk. I am that far gone with Red Bull. It's a problem. Trust.
Sponsor us.
Oh, this is very apropos. We got the winner. And again, guys, John found an online, he found an online, I don't know, some widget where you can put in a bunch of names or a bunch of whatever, and it randomly selects. And so these really are 100% randomly chosen. And this is the winner of You Choose It, You Do's It, Zach's web design, one of the superstars from tonight. So Zach, you head to huddleuppod.com when you get a minute. And then you reach out to me on Twitter, as we've been chit-chatting on Twitter, on DM, and let me know what you would like us to have sent to you. And we will happily do that. Thank you so much for your support. It means everything. And we're looking forward to eventually having you on the show. It's going to be great.
Yeah, Zach, you were massively supportive yesterday. You were just so complimentary of the podcast. And you've been hanging around for a while. You've been constantly contributing and donating and interacting, and not even just the interaction alone. Chad and I say it all the time, but it's so important that we have that with our listeners and our followers. We love the banter going back and forth, and you've been right there every podcast. So pick something out that you want, and we hope you enjoy it. Well deserved.
Okay. The chat stream did one of its jumps because it's been one of those extremely, extremely active conversations tonight, which we love. Oh, thank you. John's on it, dude. This is why we have John in the house, dude. KP jumping in with a very generous super. Appreciate you, my friend. And you've got a hat coming your way, as you know. He says, I think Donald Trump should keyword all Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers players and fans solely on the name that shall be mentioned. They're losers. They are the real problem in the world. Hashtag bubble tent. Well, that would certainly make the Broncos' path to another, what would be their 16th AFC crown, all the easier. Is that?
Yeah, you don't have to quarantine Chargers fans either. They don't show up to games anyway. So it would be pretty fun, though, to keep the Chiefs away. That would level the playing field out just a little bit in the NFL.
Do you also, John, have Steve's? Here he is, rocking the Dove Valley Deep Divers hat. Great profile pic. We love seeing it. Appreciate you, my friend. And you're going to be on the show here in the very near future. So we look forward to talking to you. He says, I am hashtag locked in this year. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. State of being. Big time Nebraska guy. So that's great. We appreciate you, Steve. Means a lot to us, as you know. And then I want to say 6'10" as well. John, if you got him. There he is. Now,
you tried.
This is, yeah, okay, so he wants to know, very generous super chat, will we ever get a size bigger than the 3X in the MHH shop for a fluffy guy like myself to wear? Hashtag chunky Bronco fan. You're not the first of our great community, excuse me, to request that. And unfortunately, there are some items that it does go into larger sizes. So far, everything we have on the merch store, it doesn't go beyond 2X. So to be honest with you, we're considering moving our third-party provider. And if we do, that's going to be one of the newer conditions we're going to look for. And in the next provider is some more versatile options in terms of sizes with regard to merch. But we'll keep it in mind, I promise you, my friend. And thank you for the support.
We can try to reach out maybe, Chad, to see if they'll kind of give us a more receptive answer to the 3X question. Yeah,
and that reminds me, wasn't forgive me. Isn't that the dude, 6'10", Adon? Isn't he the guy with the podcast?
Mm-hmm. Broncos
Right?
Talk, I believe it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Broncos Talk, guys. Check out his podcast when you get a second. So we love seeing that come out of the community, and we'll support as best we can your new podcast, my friend. Bonafide superstar in the house,
George.
the biggest Queensryche fan on the planet Earth, and big time supporter of MHH. Appreciate that, my friend. He says, I'm at work, just showing my support. Well, dude, hopefully you're listening with an earbud in and you got the phone in your pocket so you don't get in trouble for deep diving on your Broncos while you're at work. But thank you, George. And we're going to get you on the show here in the very near future as well. You're on the list. I believe you've reached out and said that you want to come on. So I have you on the list anyway. And if I'm remiss on that, if I'm misremembering that, just reach out and tell me, no, dude, I don't want to be on. But I think you told me that. So we look forward to it.
So consistent, so amazing. Thank you so much, George. Every single pod.
Manny Wise jumping in as well. He was active last night. He's active again tonight. Always brings a unique perspective to the conversation. Yeah. And we appreciate you, my friend. All right. There he is again, the man, Terry.
Thank you,
we
Terry.
are butting up against our hour. We're at 55 minutes. And so let's do one more name, John, because we had 3 more shirts that we could do. We're giving away 2 tonight. So let's do one, and then one from the merch store, and then one more shirt. So let's do one more tonight. And before we get out of here, John, if you want to pull another name. KP, what if all the MHH fans jumped into the commentary and put it under a fictitious and tweet? Oh, I don't know what he's talking about. I must have jumped in on the back end of that conversation. My apologies, gang.
What?
I thought I saw something else there. Ron Dubb. Ron, you're one of the superstars, and this is a message that goes out to all the superstars dating back to last football season. We want to dedicate one segment on one show to the superstars each and every week, in case you missed it. And so, Ron, we'd love to get you on if you want to be on. If so, just reach out and let us know. We're connected on social, or you can shoot me an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. We'd love to get you on. But he says, and thank you for the super, Ron. Appreciate you, bro. He says, hey, guys, I meant to say congrats on 500 episodes last. My bad. If Fangio gets us to 13-3, 14-2, 15-1, and the defense is top ranked this year, do you think he's poised to win Coach of the Year? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if this team gets upwards of 13-plus wins, he's going to be in that conversation, and he'll be very deserving in terms of getting some of that credit.
The only hedge to that question I can say is it depends on what other coaches do in the NFL. We never really know or could predict that. But if the Broncos win 13 games and they have a top 3 defense and they win, even a wild card, yeah, he'll be right up there. And he'd be well deserving to win that award as well. Great question, Ron, as always. You always bring such unique, thoughtful questions to the podcast. I happen to believe, yes, he would be in the running for that award.
Okay, here's the last winner of our giveaway. To celebrate our 500th episode, we cross over into the 500s. Charlie Beagle, who he might not be a bona fide superstar, but this is a cat that is in each and every chat stream. I mean, I can't think of the last time he wasn't that I don't recall seeing him in the stream. He's always in the stream. So Charlie, we appreciate you. We appreciate your dedication and support and what you bring to our chat stream in the community. Make sure you reach out, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and give us your shipping address so we can send you out your shirt, my friend. Appreciate you.
Hope you like it, Charlie. Thank you. As always, Chad said, it's true. It's like you're in every single podcast, always supporting, always interacting, always there for us. And we want to be there for you. So we hope you enjoy the merchandise and keep listening to us.
All right. We are about out of time. So I'm going to scroll down here to the bottom. I see a couple of supers that we haven't got to. And we definitely do not want to neglect any of our superstars. Eclipse Stormborn checking in from Philly. Appreciate you, my friend. Rocking the Football Priest t-shirt. He says, peace from Philly. Love you all. Hashtag state of being. Talk about brotherly love. That's it right there, man. And Eclipse is going to be on the show next Wednesday. So tomorrow or Wednesday night this week is Mark Langley. Eclipse. And if something comes up between now and then, when we need to reschedule it or do a different day, just reach out. We'll figure it out. But it's going to be fun. We look forward to talking to you.
Yeah,
brother.
Can't wait to talk to you.
it's going to be great. And then also, Chris, we're going to get you on the show in August. It's going to end up stacking up. We might have to push into September, but we're not going anywhere. And we know you guys aren't either. So, we'll get you on the show here in the very near future, bottom line, Chris. So circle, toward the end of August, but really appreciate your generosity as always and your support and your passion for this channel, this podcast, and the Broncos. He says, happy belated 500. Here's to 500 more. Cheers. And then he says, hashtag click those little thumbs up. Appreciate that, Chris. You are the man, dude. Wow.
Thank you so much, Chris. As always, thank you.
All right. We've got also Brooklyn Official Music. That's a name I don't recognize in Super Chat. So thank you. Welcome. Hope you keep coming back. Hope we do a good enough job for you to keep coming back. Brooklyn says, cheers to many more, guys. Love the content. Very cool. So we appreciate you, bro. And then, of course, Dennis Woods, who we cannot neglect, superstar, dedicated, coming in late tonight. He says, just want to show some love and appreciation. Thank you, Dennis. And seriously, it means everything
incredible.
to us.
People just pop in, Chad. They can't even watch the show. They just want to just drop a little donation and just support us. It's so humbling and so amazing.
And it also is meaningful in terms of it keeps the party going. It keeps us, it paves the way and allows us financially to keep bringing you this content. So this is crowdsourced. That's what these superstars are doing. And that's why we give them the focus that we do. Speaking of, across the pond, also symbolic super chat in British pounds. I believe it's pounds, right? That's the symbol for pounds, not euros. He says, increased reports, does James Campbell, that Broncos are working towards an 11th hour long-term extension for Simmons. Hashtag get it done. Happy 501. State of being, you're one of the exemplifiers of that, James, and Broncos world. If that's true, Zach, that's something I haven't seen since we went live. That must be something new. The last thing I saw on the topic was from, as you mentioned earlier, James Palmer.
Yeah.
So, James, I'd be curious to know what your source is on that so we can eyeball it ourselves and maybe even get a report at milehighhuddle.com up for the community. But thank you, my friend. I think that does it, gang. As John says here, thank you for all of your support. These last two pods, look, we haven't had a ton of Broncos news to analyze. We would have kind of pivoted toward breaking down the roster, but we wanted to celebrate 500 with you guys. We wanted to give away some gear, give away some swag, and give back and say thank you in whatever modest way that we can for all of your support. And then Wednesday night when we come back, we will have Mark Langley on the show. And then we'll see what Mark has to say, and we'll get into some Bronco talk, and we'll know what happened with Justin Simmons by then. We'll analyze all that. We got Zyka jumping in late. Appreciate you, my friend, on Super Chat. Dude, those are some rad glasses, dude. Bronco glasses with the logo on the lens. Dude, I need to find out where you got those. My boys would love those. He says, what's up, guys? Love the stream. As always, appreciate you, my friend. Reminder, if you were one of the winners of the giveaway tonight, make sure you reach out to us, whether it's milehighhuddle@gmail.com or on social media, so that we can get your physical shipping address and get your stuff out to you. But gang, that's got to do it for tonight's episode of the Huddle Up Podcast. Thanks to each and every one of you for joining us. Mile high salute to our Super Chat superstars. Zach and I are off tomorrow night, but you will get a fresh episode of Building the Broncos, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they're back to their Tuesday nights. And then Zach and I will be back in the saddle Wednesday. We'll have Mark on for a segment. It's going to be a gas. So, Zach, have a great start to your week, my brother.
Thank you. And I was laughing earlier, Chad, because a few seconds ago when Mark's about to come on Wednesday, I can only imagine what he's going to tell us. I can only imagine what his talking points are going to be. I cannot wait to get one-on-one time with Mark to see what he really is like in the flesh on here.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I talked to him on the phone in person, and he was a good guy, fun guy to talk to. So we look forward to it, and I think you guys do as well. So have a great night, each and every one of you, and keep checking back milehighhuddle.com for news analysis. A reminder, we want you in the comments there. We want you in the community at milehighhuddle.com on the website. Very helpful for us, and so many of you have done that. It's a rocking community, but it could always be better. Everything could always be better. So help keep the conversation going there at milehighhuddle.com. But gang, we're going to get out of here. The last reminder here before we say goodnight, make sure you're following the pod on Twitter at HuddleUpPod, and then also at Mile High Huddle. And whatever you do, make sure you're following my partner and fellow football priest here, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL, myself, at Chad and Jensen, and our producer, John, at John K MHH, JONKAY. All right, gang. Have a great night. For Zack Kelberman, I'm Chad Jensen. We'll talk to you again Wednesday night.